But the system of money that we have has to be challenged, it has to be changed, because it will end, it always has. Can you imagine if a ship went down a couple hundred years ago and there was a barrel full of paper money and a barrel full of gold, and the ship is brought up 200 years later? Who's going to have the value? I mean, everybody knows. 6,000 years of history proves that the people always opt for sound money and hard money. It's the governments and the special interests that always design the monetary system to take care of their special interests. Because if you're in the military-industrial complex, of course, you're going to get paid with those dollars early, and a little bit of an enemy here and there. We always have to have a monster and dragons and demons to slay, and as long as there's perpetual war, we can have perpetual spending. The market is more powerful than all the politicians and all the central bankers in the world. The market will win out, and the market is telling us right now that we as a country have overextended ourselves. We cannot sustain an $800 billion current account deficit, which means that we as a nation consume $800 billion a year more than we produce. Now, how do we get away with this? You know, you could borrow so much from the bank for a while, but the bank finally says no more because we don't know if you're going to pay it back. And yet foreigners have been doing this. They have been loaning this money. Where did they get the dollars? Well, we spend them over there in like China and Japan. Well, why did they take it? That's the big question, and how long will they? They take our dollars because there is a trust in the dollar. Because we are still an economic power and we're a military power, and this is supposed to convey value to the currency, and only subjectively can you have that happen. Eventually, people lose confidence, and that is what's happening today. They're buying our treasury bills less eagerly now. Our dollar is going down, and at this very moment, if you just look at last week's figures, and next week's figures will probably be the same. And the best measurement of the value of the dollar historically has nothing to do with the government, and that is what the gold price is doing. In the last 6 years, gold has gone from $252 an ounce to $785 an ounce, which is a constant devaluation. We're spending nearly $1 trillion a year in our foreign policy adventurism, money that we don't have. So let's start there. Let's change our foreign policy to a constitutional foreign policy, a traditional foreign policy of minding our own business and coming home. We can save literally hundreds of billions of dollars a year. We can take some of that and even lower the deficit, which would be an encouragement to the marketplace. And then we can also use some of that funds to take care of the people who have been conditioned to be dependent on government programs. You don't have to throw people out in the street. It is not necessary. We could offer the next generation the renewal of their freedom and responsibility and let them get out of the system, the Social Security system and the Medicaid system, and just get out. But when I talk about economic and personal freedom, I also emphasize the importance of assuming responsibility for oneself. If people do things and they take their life, they're in charge of their life, if they do dumb things and they hurt themselves, they can't come crying to the government and demanding that their neighbors take care of them. They have to assume that responsibility. In the same sense, economically, if you take it upon yourself, you're going to take care of yourself, and you don't have an income tax, it's up to you to take care of yourself. Does that mean everybody's going to be perfectly taken care of? No, it doesn't. But it means that more people are going to have more wealth and better taken care of than any welfare socialistic society could possibly take care of.
The Chinese, the Japanese, and others hold dollar-denominated assets, including treasury bonds.
Right.
Do you foresee in the short term, meaning the next year or a couple of years, a shifting out of dollar assets? And what effect did that have if the Chinese suddenly say we don't want to buy your treasury bonds?
Well, they've already started.
Because the dollar is depreciating. Right. What's going to happen?
They're already starting that, and that makes the problem worse. Because they've been financing our deficits. We've been our prosperity is dependent on borrowing these funds, and they're going to quit, and they have quit. And what's going to see are our interest rates are going to go up, our domestic inflation rate is going up, and it's going to make this problem that much worse. And it is something that is coming to an end because we've had a certain type of monetary system since 1971. And this is the result. It was predictable. The economy is turning down again, and it has to do more with our monetary system than anything else. Because it's the monetary system that creates the bubbles.
Could you fix the monetary system if you were president?
Not by myself, I can't, and I don't even advocate.
Could you propose or plan to?
Yes, I would. I would say that first we have to live within our means. Right now, because we're literally borrowing $800 billion a year, and we also have a national debt that is so high. Our foreign debt is $2.7 trillion, and we have to borrow $800 billion every year. So what we have to do is live within our means.
Okay, but you've also talked about the welfare state and our dependency on the welfare state. It seems to me the hard sell for you to the American people is that the American people actually like the welfare state. They're used to it. People my age are comfortable with having our parents being paid for by Medicare, and we don't want to give that up. Isn't that the toughest sell of all to say to people? You've got to give up the welfare state.
It's really tough unless they realize, and the young people listen to what I'm talking about, because the young people know they're getting ripped off. And because if we do nothing, the people that you're expressing some concern about won't get it anyway. So I don't go after the people who are totally dependent on these programs.
You wouldn't abolish Medicare?
That's not my goal. I mean, it might be my theoretical goal and my philosophical goal, and I think it's going to self-destruct. It's going to destroy. So my goal in a transition period would be take care of those people, save this money, get rid of our empire, let the young people get out.
Of Medicare and Social
Everything,
Security.
Medicare.
Everybody said, well, we know you want to get rid of the income tax and repeal the 16th Amendment, and we're very pleased with that position. But what are you going to replace it with? You know what we want to replace it with? Nothing! Yes, young people. Well, what do you think you're going to get out of Social Security?
Nothing!
Nothing, right. And then when we come along and we have a plan and an offer and say, look, we can actually save enough money where we don't have to put anybody out in the streets. If we have taught and conditioned generation after generations of people to be dependent on the government for Social Security benefits and also medical benefits, if we can come up with a program where we don't have to put anybody out in the streets, at the same cut spending, actually decrease the deficit enough so that we can just let young people and whoever wants to take care of themselves get out of the system. And China's holding the cards right now. China, it's not in their interest to bring us to our knees, but if they decide to, they're buying up the world right now. They're all over Africa, buying up everything they can hold of. And even in this country, they're under the current rules, they're able to buy. But why is it? It's because we did not follow some very biblical admonitions about living within our means and earning what we spend, and we have now borrowed and lived way beyond our means. In this $800 billion that we have to borrow to make up for our current account deficit, that means $800 billion a year we consume more than we produce. If you can save enough money where you actually cut the deficit and you spend it on some social program, I would vote for that. And I don't know how much I would champion that, but I would vote for that because I'd actually be saving money. The money would come here at home, and you're helping someone that maybe was well deceived. And the real culprit is the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the one that creates the bad information,
banking authorities,
the distortion of the interest rates, and they entice people to make these mistakes.
Yeah.